Lying on a lonely beach on a summer night, a terminally ill businessman and his remorseful guardian angel commiserate about their past failures. But perhaps all is not lost. That is the synopsis for the vignette I'm going to read for you tonight, called Once More with Feeling. And it was originally published in this book, this anthology called The Right Connections. It was the 2017 anthology published by the Greater Lehigh Valley Writers Group, of which I am a member. And as with all of our anthologies, they are comprised of poems, essays, and short stories written by the membership. And this particular year's theme was connections, whether that's connections between people, family members, and friends, or connections between people and nature, people and spirituality, connections from one generation to the next. It was a wonderful project to work on, and as with the previous vignette, as I mentioned before, I wrote this without any preparation, no outline, no notes, no nothing. I just sat down one day and wrote it. So I hope you enjoy it. And once again, it's called Once More with Feeling. Alone in the darkness, the man gazed up at the stars. Several yards away, the ocean propelled itself upon the sand, retreated, and thrust forward again. The rhythm was soothing, and the man imagined his worries drifting out to sea, never to return. If only it were so. Before moving to this coastal town 7 years ago, he had come here only for summer vacations. Back then, he would have balked at the idea of lying alone on the beach at night, rather than crawling bars or strolling the boardwalk. Always in motion, never living in the moment. Those days were a blur now, faded memories from another man's life. Tonight, on the eve of his 45th birthday, he concerned himself only with the full moon, the stars, and the surf. Together they worked a certain magic of sight and sound that temporarily dispelled the depression and anxiety that had consumed him for decades. Though he'd become a household name and was able to retire on a small fortune from the sale of his social media company, he had never truly felt alive. More like an automaton, a robot, going through the motions of life without actually living, always doing, never feeling. Those days of empire building had been a necessary evil, a means to an end. Now, as he lay here, childless and unmarried, with terminal cancer eating away at his brain, the man was left with only his regrets for companionship. Any morning on this secluded beach could be his final chance to cast them aside and capture that elusive, perfect moment when the weight of his sorrows would be lifted, allowing him to feel truly alive before the end. Lord, should I draw my final breath tonight, please grant me that moment. Mind if I join you? She spoke in a soft tone as if to avoid startling him, but he'd anticipated her arrival. Without averting his gaze from the heavens, he waved a hand toward the towel he'd laid out beside him earlier. She lowered herself gracefully, digging her perfect toes into the sand, before stretching out. She never aged. She'd been with the man through his entire life, yet she appeared no older than the last time he saw her, when he was 10. Although she hadn't worn a bikini back then. Now, if that's the last thing I see, I'll die a happy man. Not that I'm complaining, but why are you wearing that? I always dress for the occasion. This seemed appropriate given our surroundings. But it's nighttime. Does that matter? The man shrugged. Not to me. A moment of silence passed between them, before he continued. I suppose a thank you is in order. For? He smiled wanly. Well, despite my imminent and utterly premature demise, I wouldn't have made it this far if it weren't for you. She turned her face to the sky. Guiding you through adulthood was actually easier than expected. It was at the beginning of your life, when I believe I failed you. What do you mean? Well, you've battled terrible depression ever since you were a child. As a teenager, you attempted suicide 3 times. The man held up a hand. But you were there to stop me. Each time. You did your job. If I'd done my job, you never would have reached that point. The man was surprised at her sharp tone. She paused, as if to compose herself. In a softer voice, she continued. When you were a child, my instructions were to protect you and keep you safe from injury wherever you went. I did not anticipate what would happen to you at the hands of others, the very people who should have loved you most. The man shrugged. So I got banged up a little, just like a lot of other kids. That wasn't your fault. You didn't inflict that pain. The only actions you're responsible for are your own. She scooped up a handful of sand. Dull grains in her palms sparkled like flecks of diamond as they slipped through her slender, divine fingers. What about my inaction? After your parents divorced when you were 5 and everything fell apart, I was caught off guard. You and me both, gorgeous. I was powerless to intervene the night your mother nearly beat you to death in her blind rage after your father maligned her during the custody hearing. Then a year later, I tried in vain to stop your father from throwing you down the stairs over some trivial insult from your mother. I wasn't prepared for that. The only thing I could do was to comfort you after the fact and help heal your wounds as quickly as possible. But there was nothing I could do to take away the emotional pain. That was beyond my ability. You were left to find your own way through the fear and darkness in your mind, where I could not reach you. That remains so, even now. He narrowed his eyes and shot her a sidelong glance. You know, I was trying to have a pleasant time out here. Look, I survived all that and a lot more. And I'm not the only one in the world who had it rough growing up. Plenty of people have baggage, some more than others. Despite the throbbing in his head, he turned on his side and gazed at this ethereal beauty, amazed at her flawless skin, obvious even under the stark glow of a full moon. She'd let down her long brown hair since the last time he'd seen her. It cascaded around her head, flowing off the edges of the beach towel. Where's all this self-reproach coming from anyway? You had other charges before me, right? They couldn't have all been easy. She shook her head. For everything there is a first time. That includes you. I was so naive in the beginning. The man didn't know what to say. He'd never been anyone's first before. There was something special about having an angel all to yourself. Well, life's a learning experience, even for you. You'll do better with your next one. How many does it take before you earn your wings? She smiled, more radiant than a summer sunrise. We don't actually get wings, you know. That's just how we're depicted by your artists and filmmakers. Well, that's good, because from what I can see, you have a lovely back. And everything else. She raised an eyebrow. I can hear your thoughts, you know. Stifling a gasp, he turned his face away and stared at the sky. Moving his head right or left had become agony since the tumor began growing at the base of his neck. Yeah, well, in my condition, I'm long past caring about that. But you're still not at peace. She sat up and faced him, folding her legs in a lotus position. The damage was done too long ago. On the horizon, black began its daily surrender to blue as the man replied. Some of us mortals carry our baggage to the grave. Honestly, I think that's the only worldly possession we can take with us. I've never known what it's like to live without depression or anxiety or fear. I spent so many nights hoping I'd die in my sleep rather than wake up another day feeling like that. I sometimes wonder if I kept busy all my life as a way of ignoring my pain. I had no real passion for my career. It was just something I did to make money. I lived to work instead of working to live. He winced as pain flared through the base of his skull like a shockwave. When it finally passed, he continued, "There's not a day that goes by when I wouldn't trade those days back for the chance to be happy, to fall in love, maybe start a family. But it's too late now. Today, I just want to live in the moment before all my moments are gone." The man's voice broke and his vision clouded as moisture welled up in his eyes. He averted his gaze to the sunrise as it set fire to the rippling clouds. Gossamer flames drifted across a slowly waking sky. During all those past summers, mornings had been spent running along the beach to stay fit and combat the stress of an angst-ridden life. There had never been time to stop and bask in the light of a new day. Always in motion, it was all blur now. The angel unfolded her legs and lay beside him. "It's never too late." She kissed him on the forehead and retreated from view, leaving only an expanse of unbroken azure above him. The warmth of the sun, or was it her touch, the rhythm of the waves, the shriek of distant seagulls. So, this is what life feels like. "Live in the moment," she whispered. Peace filled the man's heart as the world faded away. "Who are you?" The little girl frowned as she propelled herself even higher on the backyard swing. Silently emerging from a field of tall corn surrounding the house and yard, the woman took a seat on the neighboring swing and smiled. "I'm your guardian angel, and I think you should take it easy on that swing before you hurt yourself, okay?" The girl dug the toes of her sneakers into the dirt. It took 2 passes to bring herself to a full stop. "My mom and dad told me everyone has a guardian angel, but I didn't believe them. Well, and yet here I am. Your mom and dad are wonderful people. They work hard and they love you very much. That should make my job a lot easier this time." "What?" "Well, you see, I was assigned to you the moment you were born. I'm here to help you live a long and happy life by keeping you safe, no matter where you go in the world." The girl narrowed her eyes and shot her a sidelong glance. "I don't see your wings. You ever do this before?" The angel couldn't help but smile. Some things never change. The girl's skeptical expression seemed to soften as the angel laughed. "Only once, but I learned a lot. In fact, you could say this is a second chance for both of us."